Nobody could reach her. Not the million-dollar doctors. Not her own father. But when the new black housekeeper placed 2 teacups on the table and whispered, "I've got you, baby," the girl didn't flinch. She exhaled, like her body finally heard home. "Hi, my name is Malik. If you believe stories like this need to be heard, please hit like and subscribe right now. Your support helps us shine a light on real injustice." The Beverly Hills mansion was silent again. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the cold kind, the kind that wrapped around your skin and made even marble floors feel heavy. On the second floor, behind a velvet curtain, 14-year-old Isla Devlin sat motionless in a high-backed armchair. Her long blonde hair had been brushed by someone else. Her slippers had been placed on her feet by someone else. And for the last 90 days, not a single word had come out of her mouth. 3 months ago, her horse slipped on wet stone during a private riding session in Santa Barbara. Her spine survived. Her body did not break. But something else did, something no X-ray could see. Since that day, Isla had stopped speaking, walking, and reacting to anyone. Not her father. Not her therapist. Her shoulders dropped just slightly, like her body had been holding something tight, and finally let it go. The teacup on the table gave off soft steam, and Loretta didn't even look at it. She just stayed still. Outside the door, a butler passing by paused and frowned. Inside the room, the housekeeper remained silent, present, real. Downstairs, the billionaire father checked his watch and scrolled emails, still convinced no one, not even God, could reach his daughter now. But upstairs, a whisper had already cracked the silence. The next morning, Loretta came back with the same rhythm, same tea, same quiet steps. She didn't ask permission, didn't ring the bell like the other staff were trained to. She simply walked in, placed the cups, and sat across from Isla like they had been doing this for years. The girl still didn't speak, but she looked at the tea this time, just for a second. That second was more than 3 months of full silence had given anyone. In the hallway, whispers started. "She responds to the maid." "No, housekeeper." "Same thing." No, it wasn't. Loretta wasn't just cleaning up. She was showing up. And that was something money hadn't bought. Downstairs, Isla's father, Russell Devlin, tapped his fingers against the marble kitchen island while his private therapist gave another progress report. "She needs stimulation, more verbal prompts, positive affirmations, maybe electrotherapy." He waved him off. "Just get her fixed. My daughter can't afford to sit in silence." He didn't say what he was really afraid of. That silence reminded him of his wife, Isla's mother, who died 5 years ago after a cancer battle nobody talked about. She too had stopped speaking near the end, and Isla had watched it happen. Now Isla was following her step by step. But Loretta had her own steps too. Steps that didn't make noise, but left footprints. By day 4, Isla began shifting slightly toward Loretta's side of the room. By day 6, she looked directly into her eyes. By day 7, Loretta placed a tiny folded paper horse beside the teacup. Isla didn't smile, but she reached out and touched it. The housekeeper just whispered, "That one's named Sunday." She always ran the slowest but never gave up. Isla blinked twice. Later that evening, one of the junior nurses caught Loretta leaving Isla's room and raised an eyebrow. "You don't have certification, right?" Loretta paused at the top of the stairs. "Don't need a license to love somebody." The nurse scoffed, but in her heart, she knew it was true. That night, Loretta sat on her tiny cot in the staff quarters, holding a small photo of a little girl, her own daughter, who had died 10 years earlier. A hospital had refused to treat her quickly because they thought she wasn't in real distress. She never made it through the night. Loretta had stayed silent since then. But here, in this cold house with glass walls and marble floors, she was finding her voice again, without ever raising it. It was a Tuesday afternoon when things changed. Isla had been awake since dawn. No one knew why, but when Loretta entered, The girl was already sitting up, waiting. She didn't say a word, just pointed at the empty spot where the folded horse usually sat. Loretta smiled and pulled one from her apron. It was red this time. "Her name's Georgia," she said gently, placing it down. "She used to run wild when it rained." Isla touched the paper slowly, then whispered one word. "Rain." Loretta didn't react with shock or praise. She simply nodded. "I heard it last night too, baby." The room held that moment like a prayer. Down the hall, a butler who had been eavesdropping rushed to tell Mr. Devlin. She spoke. To the housekeeper. Not to me. Not to staff. Just her. Devlin's jaw tightened. "Is this a joke?" "No, sir." She said the word rain. The billionaire stood up from his glass desk. "Then it's time the professionals get credit, not the help." Later that afternoon, a meeting was called in the parlor. The private therapists, lead nurse, head of staff, and Loretta were all summoned. Devlin didn't sit. "My daughter spoke today," he announced. "For the first time in 90 days. He looked directly at Loretta. "I understand you've been spending extended time with her." Loretta didn't speak. He stepped closer. "You've taken liberties, I hear, talking to her alone, giving her tea, folding animals." He said it like it was offensive. "Did you ever ask my permission?" "No, sir," Loretta said quietly. She didn't need permission to be seen. There was a long pause. The room didn't breathe. "I appreciate your efforts," Devlin said stiffly, "but I think we've gone far enough. I'll have a new care team come in starting tomorrow." Loretta nodded once. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself, just turned and left the room. Isla watched from upstairs. She saw Loretta's small figure walk through the lobby, holding nothing but a tea towel and one last origami horse in her hand. She didn't speak that night. She screamed, a deep, raw, guttural cry that shook the chandeliers. No one knew what to do. Devlin rushed upstairs. "What happened?" Isla didn't speak again, didn't blink, but she turned her back to him. She stayed like that all night, and for the first time, Russell Devlin realized something. He'd fired the only person his daughter had actually trusted. If you're still watching, drop a comment below. What would you do in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that matter. Loretta didn't pack much when she left. Just her Bible, her photo, and the little red origami horse she never got to give. She didn't cry. She'd learned long ago that some places don't deserve your tears. And this mansion, with all its marble, silence, and cold money, hadn't earned hers. But someone did. Down in the kitchen, Rosa, the cook, stared at her phone screen. Her hands trembled as she dialed the emergency contact number from Loretta's employment file. Disconnected. She tried another. It rang. A slow, tired voice answered. "This is Loretta," Rosa whispered. "She's not eating, not sleeping. She screamed last night. But since you left, nothing." Silence. "She's asking for you, Loretta." Without words. But she's asking. That night, Loretta didn't take a cab. She walked 6 blocks in the cold Los Angeles air with nothing but her cardigan, 2 teacups wrapped in cloth, and a small bottle of rose oil. Before she reached the mansion, she made one stop, a tiny church on the corner. Loretta entered, placed the tea on the table, and sat across from her. No words, no smiles, just silence, the same kind that used to hurt now felt like home. Isla looked up. She whispered, "You came back." Loretta smiled gently, tears welling. "Told you, baby, I never left." Outside the room, Russell Devlin leaned against the wall, his hand shaking slightly. For the first time in weeks, his daughter had spoken without pain. And for the first time in his life, he realized that power didn't come from what you own. It came from who stays when you're broken. 2 weeks later, the mansion had changed. Isla now whispered full sentences only to Loretta. She asked for the red horse again, then the green one, then a blue. And every time Loretta made one, she told a story behind it. About strength, about healing, about freedom. But not everyone was pleased. During an executive dinner hosted at the mansion, Russell Devlin introduced his new daughter to two investors. "She's doing better thanks to top treatment," he said proudly. But Isla didn't smile. She sat stiff, sipping from her teacup, eyes locked on Loretta, standing quietly in the corner, dressed in her plain-made uniform. One of the investors, a woman in a velvet suit, leaned toward Russell and whispered, "The help seems unusually familiar with your daughter." Russell forced a chuckle. "She gets attached easily. Trauma does that." But that woman, the second investor, a gray-haired British man, added with a smirk, "She's not exactly what I pictured in your household." Loretta heard it. She always heard it. The tone, the coded disgust. She turned to leave the room, but Isla suddenly slammed her cup down. "I want Loretta at the table." The room froze. Russell's face turned crimson. "Isla, honey, she's busy. I want her, or I'm not staying." Silence. Loretta didn't move, but Isla stood up and walked over to her for the first time in months. She took Loretta's hand and pulled her to the table. "She's the only reason I'm here." The investors looked mortified. Russell tried to smile it off. "She's still recovering." "I'm recovering because of her," Isla said, louder this time. "Not your doctors. Not your money. Her." Russell's hand tightened around his wine glass, but he said nothing. That night, Loretta sat alone in the garden, tears running silently. Isla found her there. "You okay?" the girl asked. Loretta wiped her eyes. "You made quite the scene." "I meant every word." They sat quietly for a moment. Then Loretta said, "You know, when I was your age, I had to clean tables where I wasn't allowed to sit. They told me it was just how things worked." Isla nodded. "That's stupid." Loretta laughed softly. "Yes, baby. It was." Inside, Russell Devlin stood by the window watching them. He didn't understand everything, but he understood one thing now. His daughter had chosen her. Not because Loretta had money or degrees, but because in a world full of people who walked away, Loretta stayed. News began to spread, first through whispers, then through press leaks. "Billionaire's daughter recovering, credits made." Some called it heartwarming. Others called it uncomfortable. Talk shows began spinning it. How much influence should household staff have over children? Is this healing or dependency? She's black. The child is white. Let's not pretend that doesn't matter to some people. Russell tried to shut it down. He paid PR agents to refocus the narrative. But the story had already broken. The turning point came when Isla was invited to a private school panel to share her recovery journey. Cameras flashed as she walked onto stage. Red origami horse clutched in her hand. They gave her a speech. She didn't read it. Instead, she said, "I couldn't speak for 3 months. Not because I didn't want to, but because no one understood me." Then Loretta came. She didn't fix me. She just saw me. Gasps echoed in the hall. One reporter asked, "Who is Loretta?" "A specialist." Isla smiled. "No. She cleans our house." That clip went viral in 6 hours. The next morning, Loretta arrived to work as usual. But this time, the front gate was locked. A security guard, new face, stood stiff. "Orders are to stop all non-essential staff." "I'm expected," Loretta said calmly. "No one cleared it. You need to leave." From the balcony, Isla screamed, "Let her in!" The man didn't move. Isla stormed downstairs, eyes blazing. She stood between Loretta and the guard. "You touch her again, and I swear." Russell appeared behind her. "It's for safety." Isla spun. "No, it's for control." "You're embarrassed." Russell looked exhausted. "This media frenzy has shareholders calling. Clients asking if I'm running a therapy program or a zoo." She's not a zoo animal. She's the only reason I'm not in a psych ward. Loretta placed a hand on Isla's shoulder. It's okay, baby. Isla shook her head. No, it's not. A pause. Then, for the first time in years, Russell dropped his tone. He sighed. Do you want her back? Full-time? Yes. Russell looked at Loretta. What would that take? Loretta straightened her shoulders. Respect. He blinked. And pay me like the ones with suits and degrees. Another beat. Then Russell nodded. Done. Loretta looked at Isla. They didn't smile. But something changed. This time, Loretta didn't just walk in the front door. She walked in through the main lobby, with the gate open. 3 months passed. Loretta now entered the mansion not as the maid, but as Isla's emotional care specialist. It wasn't a title from Harvard. It wasn't framed in gold. But everyone in the house respected it now. Even Russell. He didn't say much. Still stiff. Still guarded. But he nodded when she passed. Sometimes even held the door open. Change doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in small, stubborn steps. One Sunday afternoon, Loretta sat in the sunroom folding another origami shape. Isla was at her side, humming softly. Her legs were tucked under her, head resting against Loretta's shoulder. Russell walked in slowly, holding something. It was an old photo, torn at the edge. This was her before the accident, he said quietly, handing it to Loretta. Loretta studied the picture. Isla's eyes were brighter, but she didn't look stronger. Not like now. She looks happy, Loretta said. She was, Russell whispered, but not like now. A pause. Then he added, I used to think money could fix anything. Loretta didn't respond. Russell looked down. But it couldn't give her what you did. Loretta raised an eyebrow. What's that? Presents. She looked away, smiling slightly. That's free. But it ain't cheap. He chuckled. The sound was awkward, foreign coming from him. Then he said something no one expected. I owe you more than salary. Loretta stood slowly. No, sir. You don't owe me. She walked over and handed him the newest folded figure. It wasn't a horse. It was a dove. She forgave you before you did. Russell blinked. Then Isla spoke softly. And I'm not scared anymore. He looked at his daughter. For the first time in months, her eyes weren't just alive. They were steady. That night, as the lights of the mansion flickered on, neighbors saw something rare. A white billionaire, sitting beside a black woman on a garden bench. Not speaking, not performing, just sitting. And in the window behind them, a little girl danced. Not just healed, but whole. Because one woman stayed when others walked away. Because she didn't care who sat at the table, only that everyone deserved to be seen. If you believe in second chances and breaking barriers, share this story. To viewers in the USA, UK, and Canada, your voice matters. Together, we can change the world.